Hello, everybody. How are you? I am Annette the Peacemaker, and we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Actually, two places on Facebook. We're live at the Yang Gang Report, and then I'm also live on my personal profile. And then, so with me today, I have my very dear friends, my sisters, Jacqueline from 99 Reasons and Faye, the Lone Star Warrior. And today we are here to talk about some heavy stuff, but like it needs to be talked about. So we're here to do it. I have placed the link. Actually, I'll do it right here, right now. I have placed the link to join in the comments. If you would like to join us once we get started a little bit and whatnot, you're welcome to do that. Let us talk for a little bit first, though, before you jump in. But yeah, people are welcome to join us if you have something you want to contribute to the discussion. So today, what did I name this? I gave this a clever name today, I thought. Um, the economic and emotional impact of our collective societal fails. That's heavy. So that's what's going on. That's what we're talking about today. Um, and we're doing this because, like, we're losing people, okay? Like, people are dying. And a lot of it is because of the direct impact that poverty has on our overall well-being and how hard it is to get out of poverty. So, you can just like pull yourself out, it's so hard. And so, yeah. So let's talk about our friend Grace. So our friend Grace Stuart passed away on June 18th, 2021, after not that long of a battle, about a year maybe, with cancer. I think that she had cancer long before she was diagnosed with it, and also had a host of other health issues. And stuff like that. And the health issues were not being addressed because, like, so she and her disabled husband and her two disabled sons, like the entire family was disabled, and not all of them got like disability or SSI or anything. I think only 2 out of the 4 members of the family got any kind of government money. And I guess I remember her saying that their food stamps was only like $75 or something. So like they were really struggling. I'm sorry, was someone trying to jump in?
Well, I wanted to, give you a sort of, wanted to ask you, how did you know Grace? How did you first get to know her?
How did I first get to know her? I got to know her in the Yang's president, the base camp, at first. So I first got to know her in base camp and online through the Andrew Yang for President campaign. Um, because there was like a huge online presence, and then there was just like a flurry of friending all these people from all over the country and even all over the world, surrounding Andrew Yang. And so, I don't know, we just connected well online and maintained an online friendship.
Hmm. So you've known her for like 2 years now?
About 2 years. Yes.
Yeah. and she opened up to you about.
And you guys met her much the same way.
Yeah, I met her through our streams right here.
Yeah, we were
She would
friends.
participate
So
on a regular basis.
Yes.
And that's
A very
how I
regular
met Jacqueline
basis. When I saw the very first person, because it shows. Yeah. So we've created a family online. None of us live in the same state. I consider both of you women my sisters. You are my family. I consider you family. Mikey, I consider Mikey family, you know? And
Angelo?
Yeah.
And we all live, many of us
Angelo,
live in
yes. Angelo is a good man.
Yeah, many of us live in these rural communities where we're not getting a lot of, we don't have a lot of peers who share our political, beliefs and things like that. So we get along really well with each other because we appreciate, the same sort of beliefs.
Yeah, it's all relatable. Grace's situation isn't too far off from any of our situations. They're they're variations of almost the same story, you know? And so I know, like, for Jacqueline, it hit you really hard when you learned that Grace passed away.
Yes, it did.
Can you talk about it? Or do you need a minute? Consider Mikey family?
My husband, Donnie, just asked from the kitchen. Did she have a burial policy, or do we have to do a GoFundMe to raise burial funds? Why it hit me so hard is because, like Grace, I had been down on my luck for many, many years. And I struggled, and I did all these right things to not be poor, to not have to beg, throw myself at the mercy of the public, of a non-caring, selfish, cruel, sadistic, shitty public for money just to live. I didn't have that in mind when I was putting myself through college while homeless and eating from garbage cans 20 years ago. As a destitute human trafficking survivor with no family, nobody to help me pick up the pieces of my life and rebuild my ruined life. That I didn't have a choice in, right? I mean, 12-year-olds don't consent to that shit. Let's just leave it at that. And yet, no matter what I did, I couldn't ever get lucky and get a chance to have a good life. And when I say good life, I don't mean a $200,000 car or a $500,000 house. I mean a reliable used car and a house where the roof isn't falling in and that has a working heating and hot water system. And access to medical and dental care. And I struggled, but never got a chance, never got lucky, never got picked to win the cute puppy contest, never got helped, never got a break. And I had tried everything. My husband, who was struggling as a widower with a disability from being a disabled foundry worker, getting less than $1,000 a month in Social Security at the time, with his COLAs, that he's now up to a little over $1,000 a month over the years, but he was getting far less than that when we first got married. And just trying to get money to live, to keep us from being homeless. He had sold a dump truck, a car, a collectible non-restored Crown Vic, Ford, antique Ford. Hope, and in hopes that our luck would turn around, that I'd eventually get a chance for a job that would pay enough to live, that we wouldn't be poor, to at least lift us above poverty. And it never happened. It never happened. I went through retraining programs. I did everything. But, poverty compounds, and eventually a leak in the roof turned into the need to replace the roof, which is the difference between $5,000 or $55,000. And a lifetime of poverty due to opportunities denied meant ending up with diabetes, meant ending up with Crohn's disease. And eventually, even after I tried all these things, including going to coding boot camps, everything, only to never get a chance. And I had to put myself out there and throw myself at the mercy of the public and beg just to get money to live, from having no income, because of having no income while struggling to get no chance and not hired, only to have nobody help me and have people, well, why can't she just get a job? Or people acting like I never tried anything in my whole life. And I saw that happening with Grace, that she was having to be made into the supplicant to justify her need for money, when it's like, as if people acted as if, did they really think that she didn't try to get a job or try anything before all the shit came down the pipe?
To apply for services and things like that. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's like, when people in poverty are disbelieved because we don't get helped, especially if you don't have kids, you're screwed, right? You don't get nothing. And it's just, the whole thing she deserved a lot better than to die in that much pain while not even getting to enjoy the security of a modest, comfortable home that her family couldn't be thrown the fuck out of, and enjoy at least having a reliable car to get there. And that's like what I'm striving for. And people think that I never tried. It's like, I wasn't putting myself out there and begging for help because I was too lazy or a scammer or not willing to work. I tried everything, including cobbling together gig work, only to get targeted and slandered and have my Patreon utterly destroyed by an individual who's no longer in HFM, but the damage was already done.
So, it's not a, when we talk about people living precariously, and that, it's a matter of life and death, she's proven it, that in this case, she's no longer with us. When we say it's a matter of life and death, people think it's hyperbole or something, you're just a little emotional or something.
Right.
But no, it's true, right?
I'm diabetic.
Really
I've been unable to get medical care all year because I don't have a car. I can't just turn off the diabetes.
So we were talking about with Grace, that like part of the problem was she had a similar situation. She had a car that was probably on its last legs.
It was on the verge of
hospital, the first hospital. Yeah. And so the hospital, though, was several miles away. I think like a 2-hour drive or something. And then she had to pay for a hotel or a motel or whatever, even just like the cheapest, like Motel 6 or something. And So we all have asked out on our social media accounts, hey, she really needs some gas money. She really needs some food. She really needs to be able to go to do this chemo treatment. And so nobody really donated to her. Nobody helped her. She didn't get the help. Let me rephrase that. It's not that nobody helped her. It's that it wasn't
Not
enough help. Okay.
Not
So
enough
yeah, I
people
want to be careful about that, because people did help, but it was just practically insurmountable, right? So so she missed one chemo treatment, and then that hospital rejected her from the chemo program. And then she got switched to another hospital that was also a pretty great distance away, because she lived in a rural, small rural town that was away from the hospital. So she had to go travel the other direction, and was in the same situation with not having gas money, not having food money, not having motel money. And again, nobody helped her. And then
imagine if
top
she
fall
was
off. Wait.
without a car.
But wait.
Sorry.
She was what?
That's I said,
okay.
Imagine if she was without a car, she would have gotten no care at all.
Yeah, she wouldn't have gotten any treatment at all had she no car at all.
Care is going to come to your front door, dude.
So
you know what I mean?
She would not have been able to go to treatment. She would have died a lot faster. But then, just to add insult to injury about the travel expenses that they couldn't afford, that hospital they treated her for the wrong cancer. Let me say that again. They gave her the wrong cancer treatment and treated her for a completely different cancer that she didn't have. And then that just escalated it. It just escalated everything. And then she gets shifted to a third hospital and clinic situation. And then those are the doctors that figured out that she was treated wrong at the second hospital. They were just like, whoa, this is terrible. And so by that point, it was too late. Like, it was just too late. And that part just kills me. I mean, if that isn't blatant medical malpractice, I don't know what is. But and for those that are watching that don't know anything about me, you go ahead, add something, and then I'm going to tell a little something about that part.
Right. What I wanted to add was that the whole thing snowballed like an avalanche when she couldn't get the financial help she needed to continue with the original treatment she was getting at the first hospital, the one that kicked her off the chemo program, because of lack of funding to afford transportation and out-of-town accommodations. Because when you are sick and battling for your life with cancer, you're not even well enough to drive yourself, but you're the only person in your family that is able to drive, okay? And you're having to beg just for gas money or just to get your car fixed or whatever, you know, and then nobody's helping, or not that nobody's helping, but not enough people who could have helped chose to help. And then as a result, you miss the last chemo treatment. And then on top of that, you get kicked out of the freaking program entirely. And then while you're in the throes of battling a terminal illness, you have to scramble with lack of resources to try to find another hospital to treat you in a rural, medically underserved area. Okay? And then you're begging for help for a reason. And instead of getting the help that you need, You're getting your time wasted by a bunch of useless have you trieds from people who are not battling cancer, who are fortunate enough to have a fucking car and have enough money to live, if not live comfortably, who are just standing idly by watching her suffer. And that made me snap. I mean, I must have sat here, I don't know how many hours. I think I forgot to eat and take my insulin one night because I was that fucking angry for her.
But it's happening to so many people.
Because it's happening to me too. And like nobody's...
Right.
It's like, nobody has empathy. They only want to help people that they like, that win their stupid, shallow, cute puppy contest. And I just have nothing but contempt for 99% of people anymore because of that. I mean, yes, I've been helped too. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say nobody helped me. That would be a lie. But it's like I wasn't helped with, I wasn't helped with enough a lot sooner before. And when I say helped a lot sooner, I mean before I even met you guys, when my husband had a second heart attack and I got slammed with Crohn's disease and then diabetes and then, and just a never-ending avalanche of shit. And it's like the abuse that I had to take for having to have a medical GoFundMe before my state expanded Medicaid, I mean, just getting attacked all the time. People like, well, just get a job. Why aren't you trying to get a job? As if I had never thought to try that. As if, I struggled to get a STEM degree just to be fucking poor and fucked and never have a chance to have a good life. It's like, you know what? Put down the fucking crap pipe, you stupid motherfuckers. Excuse my French. No, wait, fuck it. Don't excuse my French.
Okay.
No, I had to laugh. I'm sorry. Okay, there's something wrong with me because I'm looking at the three of us on screen and all I can think about is how all three of us are wearing red glasses together.
Okay. Faye, you are definitely on the spectrum, girl. I only know one other friend that has squirrel moments that bad, and that's my friend Yenny. And I don't know if you know Yenny, but you two
I do
would
know
probably...
Yenny. Yes.
Oh, okay. You guys should get along then, because it's like...
She's running for office.
Yes, I know. I know. And she's really going through a lot with her campaign right now. But I'm sorry, Annette. I didn't mean to derail, but I was just saying why I was so angry.
Okay.
Because it's like I saw a lot of the same thing going on.
I know.
And I really cared for her because
your anger is justified.
She didn't deserve.
I would just like us to not be too it turns people away. So we just lost 3 people.
Well, you know what?
During the storm. So,
but also,
I mean, it does matter. I love you though. I love your passion. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about
that she wanted to say, yes,
because that's something that I have experience with. So the way and how, yeah, okay, medical malpractice. So in Grace's situation, the very first hospital that ended up rejecting her, they made her wait to get tested for cancer, even though she had a visible tumor that you could see with the naked eye. They made her wait 6 to 8 weeks to even test her, and then made her wait another couple weeks or so, a long time, to tell her what was wrong. And then she ended up going in for one treatment, and then she missed the second one, and that's when they rejected her. So there's the first case of medical malpractice. That was negligent medical malpractice. She was in that same hospital prior to that with a heart attack and a stroke that she had on the same day. And why did they not test her then. So they could have started treatment immediately. But no, months went by.
Good
and
question.
then she got the diagnosis. Then she gets kicked out. Then she gets the wrong treatment at hospital number 2. And nothing's going to happen to those people. Like, that is such a grievous, heinous abuse of medical malpractice that I am just like seething about it. It's infuriating. So I was trying to help Grace. I was trying to encourage her to go see a lawyer. I'm like, girl, you have got 2 solid medical malpractice cases. And so because her life prior to all of this was just so heavy, and it was just one blow after another, her scarcity mindset was extreme. And at that point, she was very ill and having chemo treatments and dealing with facing eviction and homelessness and having to live out of the car that she couldn't afford to put gas in to get anywhere. Where are they going to be in that car if 4 adults are living out of the car because they got kicked out of their home? And then, so it was just like so much. I'm like, you need to speak to an attorney. And it was just too much for her. She couldn't do it.
She was too ill.
And I don't blame her.
She was too ill at that point, physically, and too emotionally beaten down from a lifetime of getting nothing but kicked in the face by everybody else, pretty much. And
that's the emotional impact.
That really was heartbreaking is when she, in one of her more lucid posts, where she was describing the abuse that she was getting from that landlord, and that the landlord that was putting her through this extra abuse while she's battling a terminal illness, no less, and knowingly doing this to her and her family, was somebody she met through Yang Gang.
Yeah.
And I never got her to tell me who it was, because Angelo wanted to know.
I know exactly who it is. I'm not going to say it right now, but I know exactly who it is. And I will tell you privately.
Okay.
But a lot of people, you know, the people who are considered themselves the good people of the world, who are the average normal people living in our country, they believe that there are resources out there for everybody. And they believe that, you know, there are services available, all of these things. And so that's the first thing that you're always going to encounter. And when you actually go to try to get any of those services, you find all the barriers, and you find that the services that they're given out all the time, they don't actually come through. There is no such service, or this service is only for a very specific, you know, group,
right?
Or this service is only for, you know, can only happen when it's not coronavirus time. So there's all these different restrictions, and you have to actually go through the process to really understand how these resources never actually exist. So, like, you know, I've applied for many things in my lifetime that just never came through.
If they do persist, it's like one time only. Like, we can help you once, and that's it.
Well, there's just so many different
like once a
reasons
year
why.
or something like that.
Yeah, there's like, for example, I've been to a dental clinic before where they say, well, you have to have an income. We help the poor, but only if you're exactly in this range of poorness, right? If you're too far this way or too far that way, you can't get it. And then you have to prove it by, you know, all of these papers that you're supposed to have. I've been to, like, okay, try to get some help for taxes, for example. You get an entire sheet full of 20 something, you know, things. And then you find out they're all only available for 2 weeks during, you know, tax season, or after tax season when they're not busy, or, you know, like there's some specific time frame in which it's okay. Or you know, think, okay, one time I tried to call
or like
people.
Faye and I were talking this morning. we were talking this morning about, I must be on a lag or something. But we were talking this morning about how I really need my state Medicaid added on to my federal Medicare, but the application process is like 25 pages long, and I have to prove that I'm disabled and have to prove, even though I get social SSDI, the D stands for disability. That means I'm disabled. And so I still have to prove that I'm disabled all the time. And then I have to prove how poor I am, even though I'm already getting food stamps and I'm on Medicare. But I still have to prove it again with 25 pages worth of proof. And why can't they all just like combine together and have one source of all of our information and just make it easy? Because I give up halfway through. And so now I'm not getting the health care that I need because it's just too much, you know?
They made
it's
it
just
impossible.
too much, and I give up. Yeah.
It could be any little thing. Even I have a friend who's trying to get a driver's license, and it's been so much trouble, so much hell of trying to get this driver's license while he's living with friends, and they have to make it like physically to the DMV, and then they have to get the, you know, they have to do it by appointment now. They have to get somebody who will prove that they have a lease. They've been kicked out of their home, so now they're in a, you know, they're in a hotel. It's like there's no way to prove it. They wouldn't accept their own paperwork even after I got him the driver's license. Now he's trying to go for the next level licensing in order to drive a truck. I think it's a CDW or something. I don't know what it's called.
CDL.
But anyway, the CDL. Okay. So he's trying to get that next level, and they won't accept his address again that we had just proven to get his driver's license. Like, like, you know, it's just so crazy. We looked up the driver's licensing. We were trying to figure out where we could get the driver's license, right? And we had to look up appointments.
This is why being homeless means you can't even get a job. If you're homeless,
he's in a hotel. What is his address? You know, so it's like, okay. Then in the meantime, you know, I'm getting the, so we're able to get we had to go to a location, and every single place within a certain number of miles, like almost 100 miles of me, right, did not have any appointments until like the next month. It was a month out. So you're thinking, okay, you know, how is this going to happen? But there was one place that just by chance happened to have one for the next day. Must have somebody, you know, was kind enough to actually go and click cancel when they couldn't make it. You know, how lucky was that? But if without that piece of luck, you know, it really is a stroke of luck that you need, or like you said, you got to win that sweet puppy contest that everybody loves.
Cute puppy contest, yeah.
The cute puppy. Mm-hmm. So I think people don't really understand the challenges that Grace was going through.
My mom. Yeah. My mom has to, so she would qualify for energy assistance. So my mom would qualify for energy assistance, but in order to do that, she has to switch to Arizona driver's license, but she doesn't drive anymore, so she really doesn't even need that. And we manage her banking, so she doesn't really need it for banking or anything like that. And so, but so she's going to have to still go through all the rigmarole that you just talked about to get her driver's license. So she can then get she needs a new social security card and a new birth certificate before she can even do that. And then she can apply for energy assistance that gives her like a 1-year payment.
Wow. You know, all of that, you got to get your birth certificate.
And so she'd have to do that
to prove that what? You are who you say you are?
Yeah.
Or what is it that you're
your
proving?
Your birth certificate, your social security card, and then the ID, and then you can apply, and then you may or may not get approved.
But another barrier that people have is they believe that these things exist because something exists near them and they've used it before. But then now you were talking about 50 different states with all different types of, situations. And each location, your own city might be different from another city nearby. And so, you'll be talking to somebody else who's American and you're
Right.
thinking, the place, but you don't. If you live in California, it's not like Pennsylvania. It's not like Texas. It's not like, another state. And so you're trying to help somebody, especially if you try to help somebody far away from you, there's just almost no way for you to really wrap your head around what they're going through.
It's true.
And then it's like, you wonder where I cuss?
So,
dude, let me tell you something. There's not enough cuss words in 52 languages in this world for me to adequately express my contempt over how society has treated me, Grace, everything. The fact that she didn't deserve the hand that she got dealt. Not the hand. I'm sorry. The whole deck. It's like, no, I need to invent some new cuss words. And if somebody can't handle an F-bomb, well, if that makes them uncomfortable, then maybe they ought to think about how it feels.
Well, all I'm saying is that we don't know what triggers anybody. Everybody has a trigger. Everybody has triggers. And that's the reality of it. If somebody grew up having somebody scream in their face, you motherfucker, then that could be triggering for them. I'm just trying to be respectful of other people's trauma.
Well,
because we've all experienced trauma in our own way.
I was trying to finish a thought, Annette.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I was trying to finish
an eloquent speaker. You are a very intelligent and eloquent speaker. And
thank you. Can I please finish what I was trying to eloquently say now? Thank you. You're the bomb, girl. You're the bomb. Be that as it all may, people who are not actually suffering and who haven't been unlucky, they have the privilege of just being able to walk away and, oh, that person's just too angry, too whatever. But you know what? Those of us who are suffering, who are not getting helped or not getting helped with enough, we don't have that privilege of just being able to walk away. We're stuck. And you know what? I didn't sign up for this. I didn't ask to be born into this country. Grace didn't ask for this. And you feel like, there's such an unwillingness on the part of other people to acknowledge that, who have been more fortunate, that just maybe they were just a lot more lucky when that could have been them. And, just to even get people to get off their judgmental high horse long enough to at least admit that they're not all that in a bag of chips, that maybe they were just lucky. And to at least, if they are too selfish to help somebody who's less fortunate, then at least they should have the good graces to keep their mouth shut instead of hurling judgmental epithets. Or
thinking that you're scamming them or questioning or whatever.
Christ, I probably would. The times I've had to beg for help and instead of getting helped at the end of being interrogated as if I was like I felt like I was being interrogated by the KGB, for God's sake. And it's like, and then at the end of it all, still not getting helped or having shade cast on me, because to be poor and in need and not being lucky, not having things work out for you in your life, at least not in time, it's like you get disbelieved. And then on top of that, you got to take insult on top of injury. And how much can you take? There isn't a day that hasn't gone by for a year and a half that I didn't look at a piece of rope, rafters in my collapsing attic, and think, you know what? fuck this. This looks like a better idea. Because obviously nobody values my life enough to help who could. But there's plenty of people that'll stand up and try to silence me when I try to speak up about my problems, or try to hurl judgments at me and want to police my language and all this other shit. You know, my language is their biggest problem, and they're too privileged, you know, to begin with. They don't know what it is to really suffer. And I'm just so sick to death and fed up and disgusted. Every day, I try to think of one good reason why I shouldn't make use of that rope and the rafters in my attic. You have no idea how close Donnie and I came to a double suicide over the past year and a half. And nobody would have cared. People who could have helped, but chose not to. People who could have at least had the good graces to keep their mouths shut and at least care enough to listen to me when I was trying to explain about our problems and what we were going through, but who just didn't because, you know, God forbid somebody have more serious problems than them or whatever. And it's like, you wonder why people are committing suicide in this country? Who the hell wants to live in it? That's not privileged.
So we've lost several Yang Gang people in our that in our group, in our social groups this past couple of years, and each one of them has been a grave loss for us. And I've been feeling like, you know, we have so many really important people now. You know, you guys are all really important to me, but we never know who's going to be next. I mean, life is just very fragile, and in this time when everybody is economically challenged, right, that should not be something that's an artificial thing that we have created to hurt ourselves with, humans, right?
Wait a minute,
humans,
we didn't create
we have enough challenges.
Because if I would have had any say in it, or Annette would have had any say in it, or if you would have had any say in it, then we would have been at the table and getting to call the shots. We wouldn't be having to have this conversation right now today. So we didn't create it, but people, you know, who want to conserve privilege and status and power and wealth for themselves created it. And then they wanted to justify it with lie after lie, with excuse after excuse, with fairy dust thinking, and with a lot of dangerous, toxic beliefs. Like, well, Annette was talking earlier about survivor guilt because she was able to survive and got the help she needed. And I said, well, there's something worse than that, and it's the converse of survivor guilt, and that's called survivorship bias. And it was somebody on Ariel's page who was like saying, well, you know, because Ariel posted a thing about that saying, well, you know, it was a meme that of one person out of like the 99% who gets to make it out of deep poverty all the way up to the top. Well, you know, I made it. Anyone can. And it's like, this is where people need to start, you know, redirecting those conversations, because it's not helpful and it's false, because people are conflating anyone can with everyone can, when no, not everyone can. Most, in fact, can't. And the reason is because there's a whole lot of opportunity hoarding from the top 20% on up. Why? To restrict competition for the good spots in the good life for themselves and their offspring. And they don't care whose throats they got to cut and who they got to step on to get theirs. And if that means
that's the thing is, I agree with you that, you know, it's all about the people who've had status. They want to maintain that status, right? I mean, people who are successful want to continue being successful, but it doesn't take stepping on other people to be successful. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be the way that we've designed it.
You're right. And it doesn't. And the thing is, it doesn't make you a winner because you got to make out and benefit unjustly due to systemic injustice, that doesn't make you a winner. That doesn't make you successful. That makes you a freaking cheat.
Well,
You
that's
know?
the thing is, if it is,
Meritocracy,
yes, there are
my
certain,
Aunt Fanny.
yes, there are certain people who have grabbed it, but it's the same thing that there's this bias that we think that, the poor people, if we got on top, we would be better, and we wouldn't.
It wouldn't.
We wouldn't. All
No,
humans
I
are
mean,
similar.
I saw that with
The poor
guys
are the same as the rich.
UBI who were like pro Bernie and they were anti UBI and anti Yang, who were arguing against UBI because rather than see the poor get any money at all, they wanted to punish the rich to get more for themselves. And they wanted to use the poor as their poster child to legitimize their cause, as it were. And these are people that they talk about the working class this and the working class that, but yet when one of their own ends up becoming disabled or ill, like another Yang Gang friend of ours on Twitter named, Kitty, then it's like all of a sudden it's like, you bum, quit mooching, get a job. Like, oh, you really don't think she's tried all that? You really think she chose to be unable to work during COVID and then ended up becoming disabled during the pandemic and during the lockdowns? Come on, but yet this is the kind of garbage. And that's because we have a society that is rooted in a culture of cruelty.
Yes, and so what I'm saying is that humankind made this, right? It's not that if you switched out the individual people for some other individual people, they probably still do the same thing because we're all basically very similar.
It doesn't make it right, though. It does not.
It's not right. No, but we as a society can recognize this together
and we
make
can
a
F
change.
shit up. We can fix shit too.
Yes, we can fix it. So it's completely artificial is what I'm saying in the sense that this not having enough money to buy something and not have enough resources to get something is completely artificial because we can make a different choice as together. We don't
it's
have
just
to
that we
make
need
the same
to get,
choice.
We need to get people and we need to not shut up about this. What we need is to have an honest conversation about, number one, the lack of enough good opportunities to go around for everybody, number one. Number two, the inequitable distribution of said limited opportunities. And number three, the fact that all opportunities have a shelf life. And once you hit your 40s and 50s after struggling and starting out in life behind the eight ball and being down on your luck for decades, there comes a time where it's too damn late and disabling health problems kick in, or you're up against the barriers of age discrimination, on top of the other barriers to entry that you were up against when you were young before all this other garbage came down the pike and just, took you out. And nobody wants to have that conversation. They just want to walk around in La La Land like they're somehow more worthy or more special when, I'm sorry, no, you're not.
Well, the same thing is happening to what has happened to Grace is a lot of things Annette knows about that we don't even know about because she had more opportunity to speak with her in with more intimate conversations. Annette, you said that she was actually bilked out of her money. Somebody cheated her out of her money. And there was no way for her to assert her rights as a human being or her legal rights.
Right.
Not only in the health arena, but also in the financial arena. So
I was aware of that too.
So before we do that though, our friend Mel Blossom, our Yang Gang friend, Mel is going to join us right now, you guys. So here we go.
Hi, Mel.
Hi. Hi.
There she is. Hi, Mel.
Hi, Mel.
There we go. I had you guys on the background too. Hi, how are you guys? Well, I've been listening. It's like
good. How are you doing?
You're good, but stressed. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. My son is I had to run up and down the stairs while we were chatting because my son is having an issue with his Minecraft.
Oh.
What Mel? Let's see what Mel wanted to bring to the conversation.
Oh, I was just listening to you guys totally complain about what you know me, the narc slayer, narcissism. Like, what you guys are complaining about is narcissism. And
I don't
that
call
is
it complaining. I call it truth telling. Continue.
fair enough. However you want to say it. I complain about it. But it's unfortunately, I think narcissism is the biggest plague that we're all facing right now. And it's really disturbing because I have a channel, BPD Boot Camp, where I'm talking about borderline personality disorder. And we talk about but I'm very upset that borderline gets lumped with narcissistic personality disorder. And then we're getting all these confusing messages about there's a difference between someone with a narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism. However, the narcissism that we're all experiencing in the entire, just in general, is getting really confused. And I think the conversation needs to come forward more. I think we need to be more truth telling about what's going on with narcissism, really. So
Well, I don't tend to use that word very often because I feel that it's just internal to every single person, right? And every single person finds it easy to be narcissistic by just not paying attention to someone else. You don't have to know anything, just can't see, can't hear. It's simple, just take care of yourself. And we even have these narratives in, where it's good to protect yourself. It's good to draw boundaries with other people. There's all these, sort of ways of reinforcing why we need to take care of ourselves first. A cutie puppy, huh? Here we go.
Yeah, this is actually my service dog, Merida. So, but
Marita.
I never
Merida.
dog that tiny.
I'm glad to hear you say it out loud.
Yeah, Merida, like the city, Merida, Yucatan. No, I agree with you. And actually, narcissism it's been fascinating because I was raised by an antisocial narcissist, which is why I developed borderline personality disorder. And it's just been in the last couple of years that I've actually been getting really solid information about these disorders and what's going on with it. And it's interesting because you need to be very careful when you call someone narcissistic, because just because someone isn't doing what you want them to, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being narcissistic. Maybe you're being narcissistic by expecting them to do something that's not in their best interest. I don't know. I mean, I'm obsessed with this topic actually. So I've been kind of thinking about like almost if we need a different word, because narcissistic personality disorder is super serious. But the difference is that that person never gets a break. Like there is no such thing as a moment of empathy. They can fake it, but it's never real. Whereas with someone who's high in narcissism, that's not somebody that you can't not get through to. That's not somebody that, like we can all work on our own narcissism. We can all see when we're just, it's like a real disregard of someone else's well-being, like complete disregard. But it's not
that's why I shy away from using that word because of that confusion. And I don't like to really talk about personal responsibility in these situations because none of us could personally have saved Grace, even though we can feel guilty about not having done more. But none of us had the ability because we're all poor. I don't know if you are, Mel, but I know that Jacqueline and Annette and we are all living in poverty. And so we have barely enough to keep ourselves afloat, much less be able to reach out to someone else and pull them up. So
no, but there were other people who were a lot better off who could have, but chose not to.
Yeah, but then at the same time, we have, again, this, is it really their
job? And I sent Grace money when I couldn't afford it,
Well, and you also have to be careful because even though that person isn't putting their money where you might want it. You don't know what they're giving in the background to someone else. You don't know what else somebody is doing. You don't have the right to
No,
dictate.
no, you're
how
right. I don't know,
somebody-
but I know what I saw, Mel, and I saw for a whole year Grace's need for help being doubted, being questioned, being not met. I saw my friend Annette beg on her behalf legit every day, every day. Not for her health, not just to hear her own breath blowing back in her face, not just to dump words on Facebook,
Yeah.
and just to have that dismissed. I'm sorry, but when is there going to be some responsibility taken for being too damn selfish when you can help? Where do we draw the line? Where do you think that should be, Mel? When do we stop talking about personal responsibility and start talking about collective responsibility so we don't have a society that's so shitty that it leaves somebody like me thinking every day for 2 years straight that rope and the rafters in my attic look like a better idea because of inconsiderate, cruel, insensitive people who just flat don't care and want to victim blame or try to guilt me for speaking out.
So my
So where
my
do
feeling
you
about
think would be the good place to draw the line? I would like you to answer what you think.
I don't have a place to draw a line. I completely actually agree with you, and I understand it more than you know, actually.
so yeah, so
I don't
where I'm
go ahead.
interested in talking, right, is not, it's not about your personal responsibility, because none of us are saying you or that other person or myself. You know, there's no specific person that is, it's their job to somehow pull every single person they see out of, you know, poverty or something. What we're talking about is that collective responsibility of us going in to change the laws, change the system, change the way money works, find out why the problem is happening so that it's not up to a particular person. It should be the entire government, us as a society, fixing these problems so that it doesn't fall on one single person. Or, you know, you shouldn't have to depend on a man for your for everything that you own. You shouldn't have to depend on your parents or a particular employer. You know, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet, right? With the help of the society, which is the government, right? And you shouldn't have to depend on church. You know, if you leave this church and decide on a different church, you shouldn't have to start all over again. So every single thing that we're trying to do in Yang Gang has been to get society to take that collective responsibility and to, you know, create this universal basic income for every single person to have as their strike fund, to do the right thing fund, or, you know, just say no fund, or just say yes fund. You know, have enough to live, have an ability to get to your medical appointments or to access some sort of social service that, you know, takes forever to apply for. Whatever it is that you need to do, there should be enough for you to get there without having to depend on one other person, you know. And then all of us just sitting around feeling guilty because none of us are enough. We're just not strong enough to do, you know, what we want to do for all the people we see suffering. And so we end up doing nothing. We sit around saying, well, we can't, you know, I can't fix it, so I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to put in that $20, because what's the point of $20? That guy's still going to, you know, end up homeless.
Well, one thing
So,
that you
yeah.
have to, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. No, I'll just keep ranting.
Well, one thing for sure, I think people need to change their mindset about like that $20, even though it might not make a big difference, it does change it, because it does that in your heart. Like you become a more giving person, and that person felt that regardless of whether it solved the problem or not. So I think that's a really big like thing to remember, is when you do find yourself being overwhelmed. I mean, I think it's overwhelmed. I mean, and just being like, why even try? Every little bit of that definitely fights my favorite buzzword. I'm sorry, I'm really stuck on this, but the other problem that I see, and the reason that I personally am so concerned about the N-word, narcissism, is because They are attracted to power and control like bees to flowers. And when you get those abusers, they're the CEOs, they're the politicians. And normal people, they can't go up against that. You can't bend a narcissist. You cannot. And the only way for us to really fight that is for people to see it, and you have to stand up against, like, the only thing is to call them out and be like, I see it, I'm standing against it. But what ends up happening is a narcissist is so strong and so overwhelming and so scary that everybody just falls in line. And that's the problem that you're going to see over and over and over again. And I mean, we all try to fight it by standing up and saying something, and then you get overwhelmed and you want to go away. But like Jacqueline, it's really important that you keep standing up and saying it and don't go up to the rafters. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it sounds so Pollyanna and like, well, whatever, let's just keep trying, guys. Come on. But it's so important. Like, narcissism can't live in the light. That's one thing that I've learned. They can't handle the truth. They can't live in the light. And the more people that are willing to stand there and say, we see this, it's the dude at the office who's being bullied. You need to stand up. Like, I don't know any other way. And everyone's so afraid to do it. And we're so used to falling behind and looking for the easy way. What else can we do but
Well,
send that
Jacqueline
20?
definitely does a lot of personal standing up for people.
Mm-hmm.
And standing up for herself every single day is already taking a lot of energy for her.
And I've
Yeah.
had to do this for decades because I'm now 54 years old and I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
because-
I didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue what you were saying. I'm sorry.
No, Jacqueline, I mean, I think you're a great example of somebody who, like, you're standing up, but not enough other people are standing with you. They get scared. They're cowards and they go away because that seems easier. And now we're facing where that actually gets us, which is unfortunately a very big graveyard and a lot of misery because everyone thought they were taking the easy way out. But what we're ending up is right into a pile of misery and horribleness. And I don't know. I mean, I feel for you, you know, like.
I mean,
So
go ahead.
The thing is,
Annette was going to, okay, go ahead.
The thing is it starts with telling the truth and telling it loudly and refusing to shut up. And with that in mind, I'd like to segue into something for just a minute. And that is the popular misnomer that's going around that's actually, you want to talk about fake news. It's the justification given by more than 50% of the states opting out of the PUA program, early saying, well, businesses are failing because they can't get workers because these unemployment benefits are too generous. And yet there's a writer named Sean Donnan who writes for Bloomberg Business Week, who's doing some real serious data-backed, real investigative journalism here, uncovering the horror show of the 9 million plus people who were eligible for PUA benefits, but either didn't get helped or didn't get the full amount that they should have gotten, or they got helped with, something too late. And in at least, a couple cases that resulted in people dying, like a guy in his 50s who suffered a heart attack, who was left to try to recuperate homeless in his car because he was evicted while all this was going on. Why? Because he didn't get the PUA benefit. And yet we have these people screeching from, who have the microphone in mainstream media, screeching about lazy workers and people wanting to just loaf it up. But all the stories that are not getting told, and I'm going to share this, if anybody in any of your circles is going through this and they lost like their car, their home, or whatever, because they either weren't helped by the PUA program or they got helped a whole lot too little, a whole lot too late, contact this guy. I'm going to screen share for everybody watching right now so you can get this guy's. I reached out to him on Twitter. His name is Sean. Oh wait. Let me find my screen here. Chrome tab. Yes, here we go. That's the one I want. Thank you. Can everybody see? This is the guy. He's asking for stories. He's nowhere near done yet. About the result of the tens of millions of people that have been left out and who didn't get helped throughout the COVID pandemic. Okay. And yet people think, well, there's all this help and, the poor and the working class got all this money and yada, yada, yada. Uh-oh, whoops. Guess not. So anybody who was up against that because of the different states were allowed to set the criteria for eligibility. This is a big problem with conditional programs. They are designed, when we talk about means testing and conditionality, the entire intent is to deny aid to people who legit really need it. So anybody who is suffering right now because they were denied any help throughout the COVID, please reach out to this guy. This is his email right here. COVIDstories@bloomberg.net. His name is Sean Donnan.
And
That's
I
awesome.
wanted to, I saw that Vaughn had stopped by and started chatting with us. And I just wanted to let you know, Vaughn, in public, I want to say thank you for writing a letter for me to my children. So I had a letter writing campaign for me to try to be able to see my children again, or at least be able to talk to them or write to them, get a letter from them, that kind of thing. And I really appreciate, you helping me and the way that Vaughn wrote his letter, he explained that it was because we all believe in collective action, making a change. And so that's why he wanted to participate in my letter writing campaign. So
I'm behind in the story. What's going on with you? Do you mind? Can I
sure. Yeah, I don't want to take away from Grace's, our topic, but I can let you know that my letter writing campaign is at lettersfromjail.com.
Okay.
And we're doing a oral history kind of project where I read my letters to and from my children while I was incarcerated.
Okay.
And I've been separated from my children.
Letters from jail. What?
Lettersfromjail.com. We're on hiatus right now because my audio producer is having housing issues, and it's like every single one of us on the Yang Gang Roundtable podcast. Most of us are living in poverty. Not all of us, but many of us, and especially the producer and some of the people who are regulars. And so we try to put on voices from every angle, anything that has to do with universal basic income. And even if you're super impoverished and you barely have a camera that works or a mic that works, we'll still put you on. And we want to get, your voice, which is, what you've got to do is if you get a chance to speak out, you got to speak. You've got to take that time to change the narratives in our country now. We're dying from them.
Absolutely.
And we have to change these toxic narratives that have controlled us too long and made us passive and made us believe that we were wrong or we were, not worthy enough, or made us feel guilty about some choice we had made. Yeah. And, I think I was one of the ideal people to come out and speak for some of these issues because I have made very good choices in my life. And so I don't feel that, I've come from a suburban life. I've had all the advantages. And so I can be here to tell you, hey, it doesn't matter if you were advantaged, you can still fall. There are lots of ways to do that. I fell, I've had a college education. Same with Jacqueline. Go ahead.
Yeah. And a friend of ours, Faye, Yenny, She came from the top 1%, but her parents didn't approve of, the guy she married. They felt, well, he was only from the top 10%, not the top 1%. So she incurred, repercussions for that. On top of that, she had, invested considerable amount of money, and not to mention her time in getting a degree to be a game developer. She ended up getting blacklisted from the entire industry for being too good at her job. So her boss, basically shit canned her. And because she was blacklisted unjustly, we don't talk about things like this. It's just assumed that, well, you go to college, you get the degree, you get these skills, and you're going to have a golden life. And it's like, yeah. And if you work hard, your employer is going to reward you, except that doesn't happen. We have a situation where we have, somebody who is blacklisted from the industry. And you know what? That means that her degree now she can use for toilet paper.
Well,
okay.
That's the thing is, and it's her story, so we can't tell it. It's really about each person. Each one of us has to come up and decide what parts of our story we are willing to share and what we need to have, publicly aired, right? And the problem is there really aren't very many of us who can do that safely. It's not easy to be the person to share that story, which is why I really appreciate Jacqueline and Annette, because they often share very personal stories from their own lives. And it's not easy to be that person, because most people, if you still have anything left of worth that can still be taken away from you, if you still have that one job that's keeping you afloat, or whatever it is that you have, if you still have a stake in the system as it is now, it's very difficult for you to speak out, even talk about your own problems, your own issues.
But if enough people started to speak out,
yeah,
we could shut the whole shit factory down right now. And that's what we need to do. We need to stop being afraid to tell the truth. We need to challenge the lies. We need to challenge survivorship bias. We need to challenge people denying that there is a real systemic issue and a structural issue going awry, that if we can't even be honest about the problems, we will never be able to contrive a solution that will solve them. In fact, what will end up happening is what we will come up with is something that solves exactly nothing, but may even make things a whole lot worse. And I don't think any of us participating on this podcast right now wants to see that. So we need to actually forge ahead and develop the language and create the space so that people can come out and say, hey, I call BS. I did all these right things and I got blacklisted, or I did all these right things, but no matter what I did, life just didn't work out for me, and it wasn't for lack of trying. And, and all this, we need to create the space by demanding it, not sitting there hat in hand, but demanding it, saying, look, enough's enough. We need to tell the truth. We're not going to solve anything if we can't even be honest about the problems. To do otherwise is to persist in this false logic that 2 + 2 = 5, when I'm sorry, no, it does not. 2 + 2 has always equaled 4.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear some more about the circumstances in which, Grace is no longer here to tell her story, but I think she trusted Annette enough with her story to know where the boundaries are for what should be shared.
Let's go back
I think
to
Annette
Grace.
can do that for her at this point.
Let's go back to Grace.
So what she needed was an advocate on the ground in the state where she lived that could pick her up and drive her to doctor's appointments, and or take her to an attorney to have a meeting about the heinous malpractice that happened. And then, but it, you know, like, so for whatever reason, because
Just for a
all
moment,
states are
there's a
different,
lot
right?
of
Like,
extra sound. So if the rest of us could put our mics, if we could just mute our.
there we go. Maybe my mic is too close to my face.
No, you're great.
Okay.
When our mics are muted.
So,
You're good.
okay. So anyway, so what she really needed was an advocate, and all states are not the same. Okay. So Faye mentioned this earlier where, like in my experience, I had an experience where I got help from the American Cancer Society in Montana. So I could go from Missoula to Billings to see a neurologist about my blood clot. They gave me gas money. They gave me food money for like 2 days for the trip up and back. And they paid for my hotel room. And it was just for one night. And so I was trying to suggest things like that for Grace, you know? And we were talking about that earlier. Jacqueline has mentioned it. I know Faye has mentioned it. Like, I know you guys have exhausted all your options, right? But like for the person that is sitting on the outside 5 states away on the other side of the country, like, I'm just doing everything I can to find anything that you may have missed. Or maybe you're so exhausted, so overwhelmed, have such a strong scarcity mindset, you don't think anybody's going to help you. So I'm not even going to bother calling this number because I already know nobody's going to help me. But did she call the American Cancer Society to get help for that? I have no idea. I'm going to assume that she did not. But it wasn't my place, and I would have gotten nowhere if I were to call on her behalf. Because I did try doing that. I did try making calls on her behalf. Yeah. So I tried making calls on her behalf, but like there were all like immediate obstacles to that, of course, because, well, how do you know this woman? Well, we're in the Yang Gang together. How long have you known her? About 1.5 years, 2.5 years, maybe. You know, how do you know each other? We're just online friends. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? So then that just rendered me just like practically helpless. Like there was only so much that I could do and or any of us could do from afar. And so what's so frustrating is that like the states vary a great deal. Like I got in Montana, my cancer experience was amazing. It was fantastic as far as like having terminal cancer and, you know, goes. But like my treatment was good. I had really good treatment. My Medicaid and Medicare were together, plus Humana. So I had full coverage. And I managed to get a really amazing doctor. I managed to get a really amazing attorney that won us a medical malpractice settlement. And so I'm one of the lucky ones, right? Like the planets aligned for all of those things to happen. And I didn't die in the middle of it all. Right. So like, it was a hard won battle, but
yeah,
I still won.
And you still had some malpractice as well at some point, didn't you? That happened to you as well. There was some.
Yes. Yeah. So So there was we sued the United States government because the clinic that I was going to for 4 years, they neglected to diagnose me with cancer for 4 years. The very first time that I went into that, when I very first moved to Missoula, I went in to get established with the health clinic, like, okay, well, let's go in and you do the first whole big physical and whatever. And then you're established in their system. And that's what I wanted to do. I was trying to establish myself in the town. So I go in and there's blood in my urine on the very first urine test that I got there. So blood in the urine happens to be a very common symptom for a wide variety of cancers, and more specifically female cancers. So blood in the urine is a big deal. And so it was there.
Pick it up.
And then they're like, oh, and so they kept treating me for bladder infections and UTIs. They just kept giving me antibiotics for 4 years.
So
Did you have a question,
a testament. Faye? Well, that's the test. I think it's a testament to how positive you are when you describe your cancer experience as having been quite positive. And, all of this had happened to you and you had to sue the government and then you had to wait for your settlement. And I mean, all sorts of, and 4 years of torture, basically not knowing what it was you actually had. And then I would not describe that as a positive experience, right? But that's what kind of person you are. That's the testament to who you are. And we can't expect Grace to be like that.
It was negative, yeah. And then I flipped it. Yeah. Right. So now the difference between me and, like, say somebody like Grace. So I grew up with childhood trauma, really bad. We were never wealthy. I lived in a foster home for 4 years when I was a kid. I was involved in the social services and the court system when I was like 4 and 5 years old. And then, but the flip side of that is that my mom made sure that I got therapy. I was in kindergarten and going to therapy. And I went to therapy off and on through my whole life, so I learned at a very young age to embrace therapy and used that as a tool to move myself through life. So I wouldn't have it's just so heavy and daunting. Like, I need to be able to release that stuff because that stuff's not happening anymore. Right. And so I, again, was very lucky to be in the system because most of my therapy was paid for through the Department of Social Services. So in my case, it was okay to be in the system because I got that. And I needed that, and I used it, and I learned from it, and all that.
How did you know how to sue the state, for example? Because I feel that Grace is not the kind of person who knows how to do that. Because you had told me before she had been, cheated in her financial situation as well. And she also did not know how to pursue a legal, any sort of legal recourse.
Right. So I was a hairstylist for 30 years. And one of my longtime clients was like she was like a legal assistant for an attorney. And so she was also a very good friend of mine, and all of that. But so after the cancer diagnosis, so I had bladder cancer, for those who don't know, who might be watching. I had bladder cancer. And so what happened was there was a tumor that grew around my urethra, which is like a little straw that your pee passes through to be released from your body. And then above that is your bladder. And so the tumor squeezed my urethra shut. And so then my urine could no longer pass, and it just stayed stuck inside my bladder. And then that caused the cancer to form inside my bladder. Now, that tumor was more than likely existent at the very, very beginning when I had blood in my urine, that very first trip to the doctor. And so I was telling my client about this, and then she was just like appalled, right? And she's like, I'm going to ask my boss about this. And so sure enough, she called me a couple days later and she said, you need to go talk to this attorney. And so I did, and I went in and I told him the story, and then he got my medical records, all 4 years of medical records, and started looking through it. And he's like, oh yeah, I will definitely take your case because you showed signs of cancer since day one. And that tumor was allowed to grow, and that cancer was allowed to sit there and fester for 4 years. Like if you die, and it was a very rare cancer, and I had a 1 to 5% chance of survival.
Which is small.
So it's only because of all of that therapy and like I had a good support system and things like that, you know, like again, I'm a lucky one. I had a support system. And so
And you
like
were lucky to have known
I was
that
able to
one
move
specific
through it.
person.
And not everybody has that, you know?
I was going to.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know.
That
Because then
you weren't alienated from the career market or the job market. Grace had been disabled from a car accident many years ago, before all this came down the pike. And she, you know, being poor and disabled, she was completely marginalized. So she didn't have, you know, that connection. You know, people on society's margins is what I'm trying to say, don't have that social capital that you got just from sheer luck of doing the hair of this other woman who was able to help you make what happened to you. I mean, there's no way to really make it right because they would have caught it in time. You probably wouldn't have lost your bladder in the first place, which is just horrific that you even had to suffer that.
right.
But the point being is that you didn't end up fighting for your life and slapped with a definite death sentence that, you know, while facing an eviction and being harassed mercilessly by a landlord.
Oh, no.
While begging for help, and people then thinking you're a scammer because you're begging for money, because at this point, this is the only thing that will really help you solve any of your problems. And, you know, and that's the thing is that this is where it comes to telling the truth. And, you know,
I actually did experience all of that.
oh, you
just so you
did?
know.
Oh, my hell.
Yes, I experienced all of
That is
that.
so
All of
wrong. That is so wrong, Annette. That is so wrong.
Yeah.
I've been fighting Social Security going on 7 years, and
Oh, my
they've
goodness.
been suing me. I've called every lawyer in the country. I mean, I have a little bit extra of a complicated situation because I'm an expat. So they're all saying, you won't reside where I'm working, so screw you. But the rules that Social Security itself have broken and the way that they've twisted things, and I mean, they've basically been, every time I try to stand up and advocate for myself, they're like, oh, you think you're going to get something, and they make it worse. And they do something worse, or they spin it into the wrong department, and that set me back for years. Then I kept going They decided to sue me for a back pay, which if I had had a lawyer, they never would have won. I mean, if people could read what
Mel,
I've been through, it's
you
unbelievable.
said,
I've applied for the euthanasia process. They've
oh my goodness.
they've signed my death warrant. So I know what Grace went through, and it's really sad. They
Mel,
sign death warrants.
Mel, you said that you are an expat. Where are you located now?
Right now I'm in Pueblo, Mexico, and it's beautiful. It's
I've
the
been to
only good
Puebla.
thing in my life. So
I've been an expat in Mazatlan for 5 months. I've
really,
tried to escape this country, so I would love to tell you more about my situation if you don't
yeah,
have
I would
time
love
to
to.
listen to the letters from jail.
I'll tell you what, I'd
No,
love to escape this country, but my husband is, who's a lot older and more frail than me, is not able to, and I won't leave him. I won't
yeah.
abandon him because I don't want to be abandoned if I ever make it past age 60 as a diabetic, as a poor diabetic, unable to get to the medical care I've needed all year, but couldn't for lack of a car. But I'll tell you what, if I'm able to survive this, I definitely would not
It's
bat an eye about
I've
it
this.
thought
makes
about escape.
it
I've
makes a
been
big
dreaming about
difference. Like
escaping to Mexico or some other country for decades.
well, that's like the one thing in my life that I'm always like, everything sucks, but it's so much better to have it suck here. And it's weird because when
Oy.
I fly back to the States and I get off the plane, I can physically feel the tension and the negativity and the fear. And once I get back onto Mexico soil, I'm like, oh, and it's Mexico. I mean, there's a lot of tension and stress in Mexico too, but luckily I'm blessed to be living in a little bit of a bubble, and it makes a huge difference. And I do think people care about each other more here because Mexico doesn't have a government that they can count on. They count on each other a lot more, and they do look out for each other a lot more than Americans do.
Right,
The counselor that I
right,
have
right.
right now is from Venezuela, and he's working in Mexico. And he was like, "You are the worst neglect case I have ever heard of in my entire life." And I'm like, "Dude, you're from Venezuela. That doesn't make me feel good." But then
No,
he's been like, "Are Americans just like that? What's wrong with y'all?" I'm like, "Maybe. I think so. I think we gotta wake up a little bit and care more."
We find it hard to care about each other because of all these divisions we've artificially created between us. I
And
think
I think, go ahead.
if they were to try to bring you back here to take care of you, it would be a lot more expensive because your cost of living
Yeah,
is
I was
cheaper
like,
where you are. But
I have
because you're
saved
not in
them.
the country, they
Yeah.
make it so hard for you to access anything that would be available to you if you were here.
And it's so illogical because I have saved them like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands in my medical. And I'm fighting them because my dad died in 2016. So I should be eligible for disabled adult childhood benefits. And they are so vicious about not giving me that. And I'm like, but you understand that if you push me into complete poverty in Mexico and I have to go to back, that's going to cost you all so much more money. And you're fighting me and literally torturing me to death is what
So
you're
that's,
choosing.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry for interrupting you. You should not apologize to me. I,
No.
I just feel so strongly about this, right? That your case is what illustrates what's really happening in our country, which is that we use people who have needs to basically create industries, right? We create these industries and we're happy to be spending this much money because somebody's getting paid. And that person wants to continue getting paid because of your need, because of the things that you need to happen for you. And instead of supporting you to have freedom, we use your needs to create these industries that just run money around in circles. So, the fact that you're not in the country and they want you to bring you back here just so they could pay more money to, keep you here,
Well,
it's
and
just
what's
completely,
even more mind blowing is I moved to Mexico and I got healthier. And then I got offered an online job. And my dumb butt is so honest that I reported it right away because I was like,
Took the job.
I want to pay taxes, because why should I get Social Security and then when I make an income, I wanted to pay it back. And I know people are just like, that's crazy, but that is seriously, I was raised like that. That's, you put into the system because
Too
if you need
honest.
it, right. And then because that's the idea. When I needed it, I took it. When I made a little bit back, I was going to give it back. That is what has started this entire thing. And I'm like, so you're punishing me for being honest. And the bigger kicker, my money, it was a company in Canada. It was less than $1,000 a month. They sent it to Mexico. They never would have found it. And I still just offered the information. And that was in 2014 that I reported it. January 2015, they just cut my benefits off without even warning me or telling me. It took me a year and a half to get them reinstated. And right at that time, my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. So I'm like, great, now I have to apply for DAC. And then they just started, and then they fought me so hard and stressed me out so bad I lost my job. I mean, it's just, and now my dad's gone, and he was the one in the family who protected me. And now the person with the purse strings in the family is the psycho who financially abuses me. So yeah, I'm applying for euthanasia. I'm just like, I can't
didn't
take
even
it
know
anymore.
you can do such a thing. Now, what does that mean when you apply for euthanasia? Tell us more, because this is unless you don't have to share your
Well,
story
I'm
with
more
people,
worried
but
about the organization. I don't know how much spotlight they want put on themselves, but in Switzerland, if you're suffering indefinitely with no hope, and it's been going on for a long time, it's tougher for mental illness. But Switzerland is getting it, and they are actually providing euthanasia that you can apply for. So, I mean, I think it's pretty pathetic that I'm a
I
United
think it's
States.
pretty pathetic that society has made it so unpalatable that taking yourself out looks like the most appetizing solution. Quite frankly, Mel, I think society would be a lot better off with you still in it.
Well, but I started like BPD boot camp, and I was trying to talk about it, and like, I don't want to be like, nobody cares. I get it. Everyone's attention is diverted in a million. I'm not feeling super bad for myself, but I'm like, I'm putting it out there,
Places.
and it's not being heard. Nobody's interested. And I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I get it. Like, borderline personality disorder, especially, is an extremely dark topic that people, want to throw away so quickly. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's my personality. Maybe I don't know. But for whatever reason, it's not being responded to. And I'm like, I've given everything. Like, when I was in the United States, I started a nonprofit taking inner city kids skateboarding, and I didn't get support I needed with borderline, so that fell apart. I've done stand-up comedy, I've done art. I went to Mexico to try to get my expenses down so I didn't feel like I was such a burden on everybody, and I had a world that I could afford with some quality of life. And then I took a job and I got crucified for that. And I'm just like, I'm not one to like call victim, but I'm being victimized here a lot, and I can't take it anymore.
Mel, here's part of the problem that that people have made the word victim into a dirty word. Why don't
Yeah,
we flip that script and make perpetrator the dirty word? How
yeah,
about that for a switch?
dude, and that's really with all I've been learning about the dark triad. It's called Machiavellism, psycho, and it'll come to me anyway. It's the antisocial personality disorder grouping, and I'm just so like, it's really scary because I just feel like the world has been conditioned to run by that, and you can, when you get in victim mentality, it can be hard to get stuck in, and you do have to be careful. But there's a very fine line of where that victimhood needs to be acknowledged. Like the counselor that I have right now, when I went and was blessed enough to find him, and I told him, like, listen, I got PPD, I'm learning this about MPD, blah, blah, blah. He was like, it's real. I'm like, no, I'm just being a victim, right? He's like, no, it's real. And I just can't even explain. It felt like a chain, like some of the links came off around my neck. And you're right, we do need to like let people say, I am a victim, I'm being victimized, or I was victimized. That validation, you can't stop being a victim until you can validate it and have it honored. And that's how victim energy works. So it is really this back and forth, but you don't want to get stuck in it because you can get stuck in it. Narcissists do enjoy using that as, for me, get me, just want a free ride. And they are being a predator when they're doing that because they're taking the voice away from people who really are victims. And then we don't know who to listen to. And then we don't know where to put our money. And we don't know who to reach out to because we've been burned by these people using it. So it's a tough line to walk with victim,
Mel, it was such a pleasure to have you here during this stream. Would you keep in touch with Annette and keep coming to her streams?
Yeah, I love it. I love
see you again.
loving that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just I just wanted to jump in here, and I was just about to say we're coming up on 2 hours, so I want us to wrap it up. But this should be an ongoing conversation, and we can have other people come in and out. I kind of like it with only 4 people on the screen. 6 people gets to be too much because we're all so passionate about what we're talking about, whatever it might be. But I would like to eventually turn the conversation to what can we do to change it? How are we going to create change? Because I hate feeling helpless. I hated watching Grace die from afar and not be able to do anything. Like how can we advocate for each other even if we're not sitting on the same sofa together? Like, can we create some sort of Yang Gang advocacy group or something like that? Like I would like to toss around some of these ideas.
We create space for telling the truth. Yeah. That's where it really has to begin. We have to stop telling lies that end up blaming the victim. We've got to stop making victim a dirty word. We've got to stop telling ourselves lies that just allow people's feelings to be assuaged because they don't want to be confronted with the fact that they may have benefited unjustly from a major systemic injustice that came at the expense of a whole lot of other people's lives or human rights or whatever. What we need is to tell the truth. We need to have honest conversations. We need to be able to do that. We need to stop telling the lie that there's all this help out there and that if you're poor or not making it, it's your fault, that you never thought to try anything your whole life. We need to stop that. And the only way we can do it is by telling the damn truth.
Well, and it would be great if
and I'm going to tell you what, telling the truth in and of itself is the most revolutionary act anyone can do.
I agree.
Yes.
I also think that it would be great if Yang Gang could start pooling resources, like as far as like advocacy, like if somebody had known a group that could have gotten Grace to appointments, or just bigger networks of like I started reaching out with my complaint to people on about Social Security, and the response I got was, oh my God, that's too much personal information. But if there had been like a network of like, hey, Mel's over here with a legal situation with Social Security, and we got somebody else who's got a legal problem with whatever, and somebody else is dealing with welfare, and we have people who know about these things that can start getting together.
It could be like,
you're getting it, go.
It could be like time banking.
Yeah.
No. It could be
Yeah.
like time banking, but like online, like our own personal little Yang Gang online time banking system.
Yeah, if people have
Possibly.
specialties, like, I mean, I'm not an expert in Social Security, but I know how they play their game now. If somebody had a problem, I could be like, oh, well, if you're in this state, I called this person, I know about this group over there. You know, these people couldn't help me, but because of my experience, now I know some things in a couple states. That might be the one person, like your, you know, hairdressing client, that can lead this person to what they need. And I think as much as money is needed, that's the kind of thing. Because everybody just freaked out, like, whoa. And I'm like, no, you don't have to solve all my problems. I just need to know if you know anyone in the world that can help an expat in this situation. Like, that's what I was looking for. But everybody took it as me overwhelming them. And I'm like, I think a share your knowledge bank alone could be a big game changer for people.
Sharing experience is huge. Just sharing your experience and knowing that you're not alone, I think, is just ginormous. I have a friend here where I live that is recently has breast cancer, and like, boy, she is thrilled that I am standing right there by her side, telling her all the things that I did to get through mine.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's
so like
probably
we
why
need
Grace.
that. Like I think we all need.
That's probably why Grace,
told
you
me
know,
so much.
used to come, yeah, to speak with you, and also to us here at the, you know, on the stream, because she sensed that we were of her group, you know, that we were with her.
Yep.
And it gave her some comfort to come and you know, hear other people saying similar things to what to that resonated with her and her own experience of life. And she
Yeah, we could
definitely
make a
educated
Grace
us
page.
quite a bit too.
Info.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever were on, if you caught any of our prior streams when Grace was here, but she would never appear in person because she didn't even have a phone that could, you know, do the camera thing. And so she would just text us like Vaughn was doing, and we would put her words on screen. And that was my main connection to her. So yeah, so just you know, even text engagement, this is all we could get. And she wasn't like a famous Yang Ganger like some of the people that we've lost this last year. You know, she was just Grace, and she would show up just like everybody else. She was really important to us, even though, you know, we couldn't be with her in person. So
Yep.
sad.
this is our tribute to Grace today.
It is. It's our tribute to Grace, and I think that none of us need to be talking about taking our own dang lives, because we've got lives to save still, and we need these fierce warrior women who are sitting all right here in front of our dang faces right now to take us down that path and to help lead the way. All of us have knowledge that other people don't have. Knowledge and experience. Mel, I think that you are brilliant. I think you are brilliant. And if I had more time, I would watch your stuff. I am interested in that boot camp. It's just hard. You nailed it. Like, it's hard. We're spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
But I am really interested in it. And the ones that I have watched, I've liked and enjoyed and learned something. So we can all learn from each other. Like, Jacqueline is brilliant with this whole trading stuff. And I've never seen anybody string together some words like she can. Man, you know, but and I don't mean, Jacqueline, I don't mean to cut you off and try to silence you. I'm not trying to silence you. I'm trying to be aware of other people who have suffered their own traumas and had their own experiences, and that might be too much for them. And that's all I'm trying to do. Sometimes it's too much for me. I will take credit right there. I'll take responsibility. Sometimes it's too much for me because I had people scream like that, kind of, you know, and it just makes me kind of just uncomfortable. Like, I can take it, but I'd rather not. That's all. I love you dearly, though, so don't
Well, I'd
ever
rather
think
not
that I'm
have
trying to
to live
silence
it.
you. I would never dream of that.
I would have
Huh?
rather not had to live it and not had to suffer the total social neglect.
Well, of
Being
course,
uncomfortable
you know,
hearing
of
it is
course.
not the
I'm not
same thing
talking
as
about
being
that. I'm talking about
uncomfortable
one
having to
specific
live
thing.
it and not getting supported or helped. You know, it's just wanted to throw that out there. Not trying to cast shade, but let's be real. Let's start telling the truth about poverty and how, you know, no, everybody that needs help isn't getting help. There isn't all this help out there, and that you can follow the recipe to the letter for doing all these right things that we've all been told to do and still end up getting the short end of the stick and need help. Okay.
Right.
Material help. And we need to start being able to tell the truth about that and making it safe. This is the important part, making it safe for others who are in life-threatening poverty situations to also be able to speak the truth and say, look, I'm not getting helped either, but if I put myself out there with a GoFundMe, I don't need to get not helped and on top of that slandered for being a scammer. You know, this is really why this is so important.
Yeah.
No, and I love that.
Being ignored is the absolute worst.
The guy, yeah, I agree. That guy, Art Bank, was that his name that we lost?
Black, I think. Art Black.
Art Black, excuse me. Yeah. Like, that's what I was thinking, was he had all these people who loved him, but like you were saying, Jacqueline, he couldn't say the truth because somebody might react or be uncomfortable, or they're not going to listen, or they're going to tell him he's a victim or whatever. And now he's gone. And it's like, you couldn't have just listened. What's so hard about that? You know, like, I don't understand why people just freak out as soon as somebody mentions an emotion. It's like, just listen. We have so much work to do emotionally to get everybody just to a more mature and emotionally intelligent place so that we can really help each other. I mean, and it baffles me because I'm like, I have borderline. What's wrong with all of you? Like, I know how to do this. Like, what's wrong with you? What's your excuse? You know? So I don't know. It's just, it's not as hard as it seems, but I guess it is for people who don't have to live with like their heart on their sleeve, maybe. I don't know.
Well, everybody has these invisible, you know, disabilities or whatever that you don't know about. You know, each person has their own limitations. Some people are not social and they just can't bear to talk to someone else or ask somebody else for anything. Some people are not, you know, they feel that they're confined. There are many people who are confined right now by the fact that they're, you know, maybe don't feel that that they're of the right type to ask for help. You know, they don't belong to a minority group. They don't belong to any oppressed group. And so they're like, well, you know, even though I can never fulfill my dream, you know, but there's not a space in which it's okay for me to talk about it. So there's all these different reasons why people just can't, you know, come out and say anything about their own situation. Could be that they're menaced by something being taken away from them. And so those of us who are able to get that courage up and come out and say it, we just have to do it. It's your turn now, right? And if you want to do that here on this stream, come like Mel did and hop in. It's really easy to do. Did we make you feel welcome today? I hope we did.
Oh yeah, for sure. You guys are always nice.
Okay, great. Then I hope that more people will be able to jump in with us.
I'm going to run our
we'll come back.
banners for a few minutes here. So, yeah. Yeah, we will. So these are all of my contacts here. I'm going to let it run one more time through. But yeah, I definitely, so while we're letting that run through, if anybody is feeling like they just want to end it or whatever, if you're feeling suicidal and don't feel comfortable calling a suicide hotline, you can call me. I will open myself up to that. I will do my best to talk you off the ledge. Mostly, I just will hear you, and I would imagine anybody else here would probably feel the same.
And I'll give you the other alternative. If you don't want to be talked off the ledge and you want to just have somebody agree with you that life sucks, because I also see it that way. I kind of see like, I feel like,
yes,
you know, like Jacqueline said, I didn't ask for this. Why am I here? And now I'm strapped in. It's like I'm on a roller coaster. I had no choice, right? And if I had the choice, maybe I would just say, I don't want to be on this roller coaster. You don't want to be talked off and you just want to talk. I'll take that too. I'll take that phone call, right? So yeah,
sure, of course.
It's really not about, you know, it's always just about, let's get past this one moment, and then what's going to happen in the next, you just don't know. It could be something brilliant. It could be more of this, you know.
Well, and if
but
you've got
there's always that chance.
If you've got a mental illness that you're afraid to tell anyone else, I'm definitely the girl to tell and will not judge you. So, like, I can take pretty much anything.
Mel is amazing. Mel, you should see what you can do to become a counselor, because I think that you would be an amazing mental health care provider. You would.
I think I'd be good at emergency intervention, but the problem with long-term clients would be the borderline makes me way too empathetic, and I attach too much, and I would get burned out too quickly. But that's why, like, I really like my BPD boot camp, because when someone with borderline reaches out to me there, it means so much to me that I was able to get through to them, or every now and then someone will email me, and like that's got a little bit of a distance that I can handle, but it's still, I know that it's still touching somebody that has an illness that is so taboo and so stigmatized against, that if I broke through that enough that they're responding, I'm like, yes, you know, like so that I would be really interested in doing. But I couldn't do the one-on-one. I really respect good one-on-one therapists, because that takes a balance and an emotional strength that I can't detach enough to do that. But
well, that's the thing, is we four people probably know pretty well what it is to do jobs that are unremunerated and to do things because we see a need and just want to fill it. And so, you know, if that's what we're doing, that's fine too. I don't need to get paid for a conversation. You know, I would enjoy that conversation with you.
yeah.
All right, you guys. Jacqueline, did you have any closing?
Okay, so let's stay in contact.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I just want to do one thing on the screen one more time for the viewership, so that anybody, whether it's a viewer themselves or anybody in their circle, to reach out and contact Sean Donnan if they were denied PUA, and if so, what the repercussions were in their life as a result. Because these are the stories that need to be told to challenge the false information about, people just don't want to work or whatever. It's, let me grab this guy's thing again.
Well, there's just so many benefits that, oh, well, you must be getting one of them or you're not trying hard enough. No, people try really hard to get some of these benefits, then they are not able to get the things that they're entitled to.
Right. And it's like when you lose your car. I mean, in my case, I'm worried about, as a diabetic, because of not getting the diabetic care that I needed for lack of a car. And the only way I can get a car because of having a bankruptcy and a repo on my record is if I was able to afford cash on the barrelhead up front. And with the fact that the price of used cars have skyrocketed by 29.7% in the past year, the little bit of headway I was able to make by trying to put some of my PUA benefit to use, it wasn't enough. And with me being diabetic, it's not like something I can shut off. And I'm at very real risk of losing limbs, losing eyesight, and losing bodily organ function for lack of a car to get the medical care that I need, which is not going to come to my front door, dudes. All right. I need a car. I needed a car a year ago. I can't pay for one in karma points. I need help. And I'm tired of having to explain that. It's just, that's, especially after seeing what Grace went through. And when I was begging for help for the better part of a year and being ignored, this is the kind of thing that pushes people to thinking that the rafters in the attic and the rope is a much better idea. It's legit that kind of thing. And then people say, oh, well, why did so-and-so do themselves in? Well, gee, maybe because they didn't get the material help and support they needed. Maybe because other people ignored them and didn't even care enough to even listen. So I want to get this out there.
Yeah, we may have to put that link quickly in the chat somewhere, because Annette really has to get going now. And so
I'm trying to find it. I can't move that fast, Faye. You're going to have to bear with me. I'm dealing with a disability myself, so.
Okay.
Well,
let me get this up here.
There it is.
This is what I wanted to get to everybody. I'm sorry it takes me long, but being vision impaired, I can't move as quickly to navigate things on the screen.
So you want to email covidstories@bloomberg.net in case anybody is
that's
not
correct.
able to read it.
And this is the gentleman who is his name is Sean Donnan. He's a senior writer for the Economics for the Business Week.
On Twitter, he's at SDONNAN.
That's correct.
All right. So we better wrap up real fast now for Annette. So thank you very much for having this stream for us.
Yeah, thank you.
You are welcome. And let's stay in contact. And let's schedule another one. Maybe we can all agree upon like a set day that we can all come together. You know?
And also I want to get Boyce
like
in
if
here.
Sunday works for y'all, maybe we can do that.
Okay.
I got to get Boyce in here to talk about his helping out in New York City. So I think it would be great to hear about his
I would love that.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
I would like that very, very much.
Live
all right.
love,
bye, you guys. Mwah, I love you.
Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Miriam.
All right. Take care.